Yeah.
Why do I bring all that up? A, because it's clever. B, because now you got to go look at it and see if you can find all those things. But C, which is most importantly, is there's this. You and I have discussed, like, there's this handoff that happens between marketing and sales. Sometimes it's effective and sometimes it's very ineffective. I'll ask you to talk about where some of those breakdowns are. But in terms of that arrow going back to the microphone or megaphone, what makes it so effective is when you can take your granular bullseye data, your sales data, your user data, conversion data, and feed that back into the marketing. In our first 3 episodes with our guest Mario D'Aquila, that's what we all talked about, was closing this loop between marketing and sales. So what are some of those breaking points, or why do some of those breaks occur between marketing and sales, who are, you would think, ostensibly working towards the same ends? And then how do you fix that by taking your sales or user data and have it inform the marketing programs?
Yeah. So we could really geek out on some things here, and I think we're going to have quite a few. Yeah, we're going to have quite a few episodes covering this topic, and some great guests who know more than I do about fixing these types of problems in organizations. What I typically see is a lack of process within organizations, and process could be, I suppose, broadly defined as a number of things. Whether they don't have the right tools in place. And a tool could be as simple as a spreadsheet. You could use a Google spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be a Salesforce or HubSpot or something super sophisticated. But you have to have people who are dedicated to collecting that data, entering and updating that data, and then that allows for that feedback loop. So everybody's sort of bought in. Now you're talking about culture and making sure your teams are properly trained to use the tools that you're implemented. There's really a lot that can go into this.
Yeah, just real quick to interject, Mario preaches the transparency and then the compliance. He wants to be able to see everything, and then he wants everyone to comply to what everyone agrees to, which is the process that you define. So sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Yeah, and he says if it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. Right. So
Pixar didn't happen.
Come talk to him. Yeah, don't come talk to me about a lead if I can't go and look it up in Salesforce, right, because I won't listen. So the feedback loop then you're talking about is more or less twofold. First, we can analyze that data, and we're talking about something real and sort of tangible, right? It's not like, I feel like the phone's not ringing, or I feel like we're not getting a lot of leads the last 2 weeks. If you were to say that, we'd want to look at data and say, okay, is that true? Right? Let's validate that. Is it true or not? And then if it is true, what's causing that? And then let's go down or up the funnel, so to speak, and see what's happening. And then pull whatever levers we need to pull to make a change, if there's something. It could just be seasonality or something like that. So so that first point is really just having access to the data and us being able to look at it and have a conversation around it. The second piece is now we're able to actually take that data and feed it back to the tools. Google would be the primary one, and tell Google in a lead gen environment, this would be offline conversion data. So we want to import the qualified leads or good leads and the closed leads, import it back to Google. Google learns off that data. And over time, the algorithm improves in your advertising to go and find more of those types of people, whether it's because of their previous behavior, because of it's their demographics, whatever that might be. In an e-commerce world, that happens in real time. I go to a website, I buy a product, I check out the cart, that data is fed back to Google immediately. They know what you purchased, what your experience was on the website, what pages you looked at, what the total cost of the cart was, and those types of things.
It also what everything else that you do, right? It's not just that session. It's
all of it, right? It's that session plus everything else that you're doing.
Where else does
right.
Tom go after he buys this? And what kind of websites does he like? How long does he go spend on YouTube? All that stuff. So sorry.
Yep. So again, if I'm selling backpacks and you're a hiker and you come and you like the outdoors and you bought my backpack, I'm going to take that demographic and behavioral stuff that that is off of your user persona, and then go and find more people like that. Or if you didn't check out, then that's telling Google, okay, maybe this one wasn't right, and then decides more people like that it wasn't right to send them to, and now start doing it. What that's causing, I will say, and we might with some future guests get into specifics on this, but Google doesn't want us to be as precise than with some of our targeting. We used to get very specific on our keyword research, and we used to talk about long tail keywords and like all of these types of things. Google's saying, now, you as the advertiser, I don't want you to be concerned about the long tail. I want you to put in the broader search terms and then let me worry about all of these other things, because I might catch that user that doesn't use that long tail, but it still might be a good fit for you. So that's probably as generic as I could kind of sort of drill it down in sort of layman's terms. But like I said, I think we'll have some guests who get into specifics on this as well.
But yeah, and to use that example, Google's goal is still to be precise, right? Going back to the whole bullseye methodology, they feel like their algorithms are better trained to go and figure out what those precision points might be. And so that's kind of the broader point is I was making, is that as you maybe embark on a campaign, let's say you're starting from scratch, right? The precision sharpens over time. So it's like initially you might be doing, especially if you haven't done any advertising prior or don't have a long history with your brand, you might be doing some trial and error at the beginning and then learning. And then not only are you learning, so you're gathering data, then you're feeding it back into the marketing machine, Google and others, and Google and others are learning. And then eventually you get to the point where your spend is very efficient. But you have to get to that point. You have to not just rely on a bullhorn, shoot something to the world, hey, I'm having a sale, and then go look at the data on Saturday and say, well, why didn't anyone buy anything?
Yeah.
Right? So how does it...
And
go ahead.
Let me share just to put this into numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say this offline conversion stuff a year and a half ago, I think, started to really take effect. And that was with the launch of Performance Max, which was a new campaign type in Google. We really started embracing it with many of our clients in Q3 of last year. Separate from Mario, I've got another client, did similar things as Mario. We were in our traditional search campaigns with our standard tracking and all of that at about $120 cost per lead, cost per conversion. And they were pretty happy with that. And there was a return on investment, or at least break even every month, which was happy because they were growing.
Right.
We looked at last month's data. We're now at $35 cost per lead. So we dropped that from 120 down to 35. And the only thing we started doing a year ago was feeding the algorithm. That's really the only thing we did differently. And same thing with Mario. There were some other sort of internal tactical changes, that were done, but those were all done so that we could feed the algorithm more data. And there's more things that we can do. We're looking at other opportunities to give Google data and kind of let it run with what it knows about the business and what it knows about the business's customers, and then find more customers.
Yep. Yeah, and Mario brought up the point too, is when you're calculating ROI on, say, cost of acquisition, the thing you have to factor in somehow, I don't know how you specifically recommend doing this mathematically. Again, I was an English major, but you got to talk about the lifetime revenue of an acquisition, which you don't know at the point of conversion, right? So
right.
If it costs you, let's say, $120 to convert a lead, but that client is lifetime, and then they refer 3 other clients that didn't cost you anything, I mean, that's exponential return on investment.